The man who's challenging State Representative Alan Peake in the Georgia House District 141 Republican primary wants to get rid of property taxes and focus on education. In part one of Brad Moriarty's sit-down interview with 41 NBC, he talks about how he'd push to reform the tax code if elected and how he feels about that hotly debated gun bill. In terms of property tax, if the government did away with that, how would they make up for that consumption?
Sure. I think that in terms of the property tax, that there are ways that you can cut a lot of government just spending in general. I mean, every year you continue to hear about new ways they're trying to generate revenue. Well, why? Because they keep building the government bigger and bigger every year. Well, I think in terms of those that actually keep up with the funding revenue generation, like for the property tax, you eliminate those kind of groups, and that would hopefully cut back some of that spending. But if we start talking into other tax reforms such as income tax, which I think you should be able to keep whatever you earn without being taxed upon that either. The government has to find a way. I think we're at a tipping point in terms of where everyone just kind of likes to say, oh well, it's just the norm. Well, it's not the norm. We need to stop, and if we finally come together and say, well, enough's enough, we have to force them to finally say, okay, we've got to cut spending or we're going to go into debt. Until the people step up and actually force the government, that's my thing is I'm here to finally try and put a stop to this and force the government to stop the spending, to cut back, to allow me to own my own property, keep my money, that kind of thing. In terms of other things for tax generation is maybe consumption style tax. At least in those ideas, you get to choose how you want to be taxed. Like when you want to go buy a TV or buy a car or whatnot, you at least get to choose. You're not held at gunpoint in a way of you're going to be mandated to take my money every year from me because I own a house. Okay. Or even the car tax, honestly, you have to pay taxes every single year on that. But at least those ideas, they're choices of yours versus being forced. Okay, well, going back a little bit to what you say on your website, it is interesting. You said you'd like to restore liberty and not restrict it. In your opinion, how do you feel the current leadership in Georgia has restricted some of our liberties? I just, in general, I think taxes are a big piece of being restricted our liberty. Anytime that you're forced to, mandated to do something like that, to give away money, I mean, they necessarily own your lifestyle. If they want to increase your taxes because of something, that they can do that. In terms, I think that the new gun bill has been pretty promising. That's been something that I was pretty happy with. That really kind of restored some liberties here for the Second Amendment. That's a pretty big deal to me. So you were in full support of that gun bill? I was. I definitely was. And be sure to tune into the news at 11 right here on 41 NBC for part 2 of Moriarty's interview. He talks more about why he's fit to lead in the State House and his position on education reform.